This environment's going to persist, guys. It's not going to go away. Because if you're using the same strategy that you were 2 or 3 years ago, I promise you, you're doing half of what you were doing today. Stop being romantic about the way you do business. If the environment shifts, you have to shift with it. Oh, hustle, work ethic, consistency. No, it's strategy. And if you're going to seminars where they're like, it's positive and think good. Bro, stop it. It's not going to get it done.
It's funny because I remember having a conversation with you about interest rates in Florida. I was betting there was a little bit more political influence on rates, meaning that prior to the election that the rates were going to come down for political reasons, basically. But they came down a little bit, but then right after that, they went right back up, basically. Now, let me ask you this, Novello. For like the last 2 years, they've been in a cycle called quantitative tightening. They're taking money out of the money supply, basically. I've heard that the quantitative easing stopped December 1st, meaning that they're basically starting the money printing machine again.
So what we've been doing, just to put that into context, and this is like it's a high level conversation, but whatever, we'll have it. You know how I said, we issue bonds, right? And that's how we pay for things. For the last year, we are the biggest purchaser of our own debt. 15% of all of the debt we're buying with debt. Can you imagine if you went to your credit card company, Jose, and you're like, hey, bro, I'm going to take out a loan to pay you back the loan that I owe you. So that's what's happening. Now, when we start to lower the Fed funds rate, which is that rate, people think that means interest rates. It doesn't. That's just the rate that banks borrow from the federal government. When we lower the Fed funds rate, we're putting more money into the system. Now, keep this in mind. We're lowering interest rates into an inflationary environment. That's not really what you would want to do, right? So, and what's also happening on the other end of it, Jose, is there's this window when banks need liquidity, they can go and ask for money if they don't have enough cash, right? Over the last, 3 or 4 months, bro, billions upon billions upon billions, they've been going back to the window and they're like, yo, we need more money, we need more money, we need more money, we need more money, we need more money. Again, from an economic perspective, long term, I think in 5 to 10 years, right? We are at the end of a long-term debt cycle. We just have never lived through it before. So we don't have any context for it. I mean, if you've been selling real estate for, even 15 years, you've basically sold real estate in a very, very favorable environment. And the environment that we're currently in, from a macro perspective, things are changing, things are shifting. Because of that, I don't see mortgage interest rates coming down anytime soon in any reasonable way. They just can't because of the way the machine works. So the question is well, how is it that Jose will do 150 deals this year in that environment? Because it's the same environment for everybody. And I also think too, Jose, we have this wild affordability problem where we have this K-shaped economy. The only people buying and selling houses are the top 10%. Nobody else is. Because they can't. They can't afford the payments. They can't afford to transact. They don't have enough money for down payments. They just can't. Insurance and all this stuff is getting more expensive. How is it that somebody could have a record year, make more money in what everybody else would perceive as an unfavorable environment? And the answer is strategy, because business is just strategy and people. And unfortunately, the human nature is when we find something that works, we don't want to move away from it because we think it provides safety. But that's just not that's not true, right? So I did 100 deals one year and 75 were expireds, but that was in an environment where it was the historical high of expireds. The most that they'll ever be and probably ever will be. 300, 400 a day in my market. I couldn't even call them all in one day. I would set 3 appointments a day, bro. Cancel 2 and go on 1 because 2 of them didn't have any equity. And that was great. But it didn't last forever because the marketplace got better. So then I had to pivot, and I had to pivot to a different lead source, which was probate. That's market resistant. That's interest rate resistant. That's, government resistant. Doesn't matter who the administration is. And that was a good pivot, right? Because I was no longer dependent on something that was very dependent on market conditions, which is expireds. And that took me from 100 transactions to 200 transactions. In this, this environment's going to persist, guys. It's not going to go away. And as such, I need to be very, very intentional and purposeful about strategy. There's no leeway for not being purposeful about strategy. Because if you're using the same strategy that you were 2 or 3 years ago, I promise you, you're doing half of what you were doing today. And that's uniform. I talk to agents all across the country. That's what's happening. And they think it, and when I ask them why, you know what's fascinating, Jose? When I ask them why, you know what they drop in the comments or they drop? If I'm doing a live stream or a Zoom. Oh, hustle, work ethic, consistency. No, it's strategy, right? So focusing on lead sources that have high densities and motivated qualified sellers. Focusing on the skills that you need to list property in high volume and to be able to not only list them, but sell them, right? So framing the price and portion of listing presentation, getting price adjustments, Presenting offers that come in less than the asking price. So I don't want to spend too much time on the bond thing because it's like a really high level thing. The thing to really pay attention to though is like, A, it's not going to change anytime soon. That's the main event. So B, I need to be very intentional and purposeful about my strategy so I can get my unfair share of what's available. Jose's getting his unfair share of what's available. There's way less available. It's 50% decrease in his market of transactions. 50%, but he's getting way more of what's available. What's worth stacking time on top of right now is A, skills, bro. Skills pay the bills, dude. I'm telling you. B, lead sources that are working. Stop being romantic about the way you do business. Stop it. Yeah, like one lead source might have done you well for like a year or two or three or four or even five, but like if the environment shifts, you have to shift with it. So learning what lead sources are working, so that way you can get your unfair share of the business moving forward. Because guys, there's a lot of disruption. I mean, look at what happened last year in our industry. Keller Williams sold to private equity. Like Gary Keller sold the vast majority of his interest to private equity. Compass is buying anywhere. Wild consolidations. Fighting about MLS systems, fighting about like who gets data and where it goes. Yeah? You know what I know to be true? If you can provide the system with what it needs, like oxygen to breathe, which is listing data, you will be disproportionately rewarded for your efforts, period. Because if they could get rid of you, they would. They just can't. Does that make sense, everybody? Like this is like a passionate call to all my real estate brothers and sisters. This is what 2026 is going to be all about. Listing property in high volume, what lead sources are working, the skills that are required in order to, move inventory. And if you're going to seminars where they're like, it's positive and think good, bro, stop it. It's not going to get it done. And if you are going to seminars where people were saying, the head coach was saying last year, rates are going to come down, guys. Be ready. 5%. That's what they're doing. Bro, get out of that room. Leave. And your ability to accurately assess reality and deal with it is directly correlated with your ability to get what you want. Everybody on this call wants more deals and income. Yes? So then you must assess reality clearly, independent of how you feel about it. You must assess what your skills you need, independent of what you have to do to acquire them. Resist the temptation to just be coddled or to be told what you want to hear because it makes you feel good. Don't do that. And if you want to learn all this stuff, just keep coming to calls like this. Hang out with us more. Come to the events we put on. That's what we do. Most people teach mindset because they can't teach tactics. We teach tactics, team.